this meeting of the Gary Sanitary District, this regular meeting for Wednesday, August 14th, 2019. Prior to starting the meeting, we ask that if you have a cell phone, you please turn it to silent or vibrate as to not disrupt the meeting. If you do receive a call during the meeting, we ask that you step out into the lobby to take the call, again, as to not disrupt the meeting. We'll start this meeting as we do every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on our agenda is roll call. Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Trammell Rags.
Present.
Commissioner Maurice Mabon.
Present.
Commissioner Ola Morris.
Present.
Attorney Nick Snow.
Present.
Executive Director Daniel Vicari.
Present.
Director of Administration Vern White.
Present.
And we also have Mayor Freeman Wilson.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And that's the end of roll call.
Thank you. With 3 commissioners, we do have a quorum to complete business. Next on our agenda is certification. I, Trammell Rags, certify that prior to this meeting, there was an executive session held, and there was nothing that was discussed during that executive session that was not indicated on the executive session posted in compliance with Indiana Code 5-14-1.5, and there were also no final decisions made during that executive session, also in compliance with that same law. If there is any commissioner that dissents this certification, they may do so now. Hearing none, we'll move along to the minutes. What is the pleasure of the board regarding the minutes?
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we accept the executive session and regular meeting minutes of July 15, 2019.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Mabon.
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, the minutes have been approved. Next, we'll move along our agenda to new business, and for new business, I'll turn it over to the Executive Director, Mr. Daniel Vicari.
Thank you, Chairman. For items 2A through 2E, I would like for Vern White to provide you the overview.
Thank you, Director. Item 2A, a motion to approve GSD payroll earnings for period ending June 24, 2019 through July 7, 2019 in the amount of $363,451.85. I recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2A. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Mabon.
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2A has been approved.
Item 2B, a motion to approve GSD payroll earnings for the period ending July 8, 2019 through July 21st, 2019 in the amount of $256,712.72. I recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation regarding 2B. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Mabon.
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2B has been approved.
Item 2C, a motion to approve the destruction of 8 boxes of non-permanent records which are in compliance with the special district and general retention schedules. The 8 boxes of material scheduled for destruction are in accordance with the state of Indiana retention schedules. Record Supervisor Mrs. Tanya Cousin has previously provided these schedules for the board's review. I recommend approval of the boxes as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2C. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Mabon.
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2C has been approved.
Item 2D, a motion to approve GSD resolution number SD 19-03 approving and ratifying, declaring an emergency and extension for repayment of a loan made to the City of Gary from GSD's Capital Replacement Fund 420 and GSD's Equipment Replacement Fund 435. The motion is to approve and ratify extending the existing City of Gary's outstanding loan with the Gary Sanitary District. The original loan of $15,597,426.61 was made to the City of Gary, occurred during the period 2005 through 2006. The current outstanding balance is now $4,757,126.61. The City of Gary entered into a repayment schedule per GSD's consent decree beginning September 19, 2018, as presented to the board. The city made payments on September 19, 2018 for $300,000 and on January 29, 2019 for $300,000, totaling $600,000. The city is making the payments in accordance with the established repayment plan per the consent decree. I therefore recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2D. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr.
Second.
Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
I did just want to say one thing. You know, this particular administration wasn't responsible for borrowing any of this money, but they were taxed with paying it back. And so it's really, I'd just like to thank the mayor for the efforts. So, I mean, we still got a little ways to go. Just thought I'd say that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2D has been approved.
Item 2E is a motion to approve GSD, and I'm sorry, Vern, I cut you off.
You can proceed.
Please continue. I thought I was ready for the 2F.
All right.
Pardon me.
No worries, as you would say. A motion to approve GSD Resolution Number SD 19-04, approving and ratifying closing out the GSD/REP White River Environmental Partnership Community Development Program and the GSD/REP Loan Guarantee Program BMO Harris Bank accounts. GSD entered into an agreement in June 2002 with its former contract operator, then White River Environmental Partnership, also known as REP. The agreement was for funding small business loans for the City of Gary residents with an initial investment of $300,000. REP periodically made payments of $50,000 funding the bank accounts established for this initiative for a total investment of $450,000. During the period 2005 to 2009, the City of Gary entered into interlocal agreements with GSD to use these funds for the sewer hookup program in 2005 and the citywide cleaning initiative during 2006 through 2009. The remaining account balances in GSD/REP loan guarantee program of $3,977.08 and in GSD/REP community development program of $10,866.01 are considered dormant. Therefore, we are requesting approval and ratification for the account balances closure and transfer to GSD Center Operating Fund 670. I recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2E. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval.
Second.
Acceptance, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2E has been approved.
Item 2F is a motion to approve an award of bid to Inland Water Pollution Control, Inc. for sanitary sewer lining at the vicinity of 5312 West 7th Avenue and 5729 Melton Road in a not-to-exceed amount of $37,924.00. This is looking at the alternative to open cut and replacement of sewers, and this project is eligible for what's called cured-in-place pipe. So it's a lining of that pipe that makes it structurally like new. Some people argue better than new. It's stronger than concrete sewers. Roughly 388 feet of sewer is going to be lined. It's all 12-inch diameter sewer. This is a section also that runs across Melton Road, or US 20, so it makes it even further ideal to not have an open cut of that road and be able to line the sewer. We solicited quotes from 24 contractors with 3 responding. Inland Waters Pollution Control, Inc. being the lowest responsive bidder. I recommend approval.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2F. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2F has been approved.
Item 2G is a motion to approve and ratify an award of bid to Alex Met Sewers for the sanitary sewer and manhole replacement at the vicinity of 829 Rhode Island Street in a not-to-exceed amount of $62,700.00. This is roughly 181 feet of 10-inch diameter sewer that we're replacing with PVC, so it is an open cut area. We are looking at 10 contractors that were solicited with 4 responding, with Gary-based Alex Met Sewer being the lowest responsive bidder. We recommend approval.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2G for approval and ratification. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Approval and ratification?
And ratification, sorry.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2G has been approved.
And just to mention, 2G, H, and I are all approval and ratification due to the nature of the pedestrian and vehicular hazards of these projects. I forgot to mention that with 2G, but it is in the memo. Item 2H is a motion to approve and ratify an award of bid to Alex Met Sewers for an emergency sanitary sewer repair at the vicinity of 17th Avenue and Connecticut Street in a not-to-exceed amount of $36,100.00. This is looking at a 15-inch diameter sewer, roughly 98 lineal feet. Immediate repair was necessary, so we're asking for the board for ratification. But we did solicit 14 contractors. We had 4 respond on the emergency basis, with Alex Met Sewer being the lowest responsive bidder at, $36,100.00. We recommend approval.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2H. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move, Mr. Chair, for approval and ratification.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2H has been approved.
Item 2I is a motion to approve and ratify an award of bid to LGS Plumbing for the sanitary sewer repair at the vicinity of 660 Cleveland Street in a not-to-exceed amount of $27,920.00. We're looking at a pedestrian and vehicular hazard that was created, creating the emergency condition, and we solicited quotes from, sorry, I had the wrong one. Solicited quotes from 13 contractors, 3 responding, with LGS Plumbing being the lowest responsive bidder. We recommend approval and ratification.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2I. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move, Mr. Chair, for approval and ratification.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2I has been approved and ratified.
2J is a motion to approve pay application number 1 and change order number 1 to TMI Coating for the interior and exterior coating of the digester gas sphere, which is GSD project number SD 18-05. I'm sure all the commissioners noticed our gas sphere is finally painted outside and inside, mostly due to prevent rust. It's a rust prevention method, but it looks pretty good too. As part of the contract, there was a $4,000 bid item for putting the graphics back on there, whether it's, say, Gary Sanitary District, that was up to us, but they at least provided a price to replace what was there. We're recommending not to do anything at this moment. We're looking at an alternative contractor to provide that work. So in this case, we're asking the board to approve pay application number 1 and the change order in the amount of a deduct of $4,000 on the contract. I recommend approval.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2J. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rax?
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2J has been approved.
Item 2K is a motion to approve the certificate of final completion to TMI coating for the interior and exterior coating of the digester gas sphere, which is GSD project number SD 18-05. So related to your previously approved pay app and change order number 1, we're recommending to the board to issue the certificate of final completion. We never had to get to the release of retainage because the project happened all in one billing cycle. So we're looking for board approval to close out the project.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2K. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rax?
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2K has been approved.
Item 2L is a motion to approve task order number 31 to the master services agreement between the Gary Sanitary District and CDM Smith, Inc. for construction management services for the aeration system improvements project, which is task order number 24 under the master services agreement. At a previous meeting, the board did approve the construction contract with Thienemann Construction for this project. This project entails primarily replacement of our blowers for our aeration process here at the plant. Those blowers have gone beyond their useful life. The new blowers are much more energy efficient. We're looking at a minimum of a 30% reduction in our electrical demand here at the plant because of this project. It's also including replacement of the aeration, the piping that delivers the air to the tanks, as well as additional modern controls. CDM Smith was the design engineer for the project. We are recommending to the board with this proposal and this task order to retain them to continue to provide construction management service, or construction engineering services rather, during the life of the project. In the proposal, toward the end, there's a schedule that kind of gives you an idea of the level of effort that they would include that is lesser so at the beginning of the project, responding to requests for information and submittals and that sort of thing during the pre-construction phase. But as soon as construction ramps up this winter, their level of effort is nearly 100% full-time field engineering, which I highly recommend. It's a very complicated project. There's a lot of underground utilities here. We want to make sure that there are boots on the ground to make real-time decisions when perhaps unforeseen conditions present themselves. So we're looking for board approval of item 2L.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2L. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rax?
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2L has been approved.
I just want to add to, on 2L, this is one of the bigger, high priority, very important projects that we've done here at the wastewater plant in the last number of years. And I didn't want to steal her thunder, but Mandira Wagley from CDM Smith is here if you have any questions for her, but just want to recognize that she's here today.
Any additional questions for the CDM Smith representative? No. Yes. All right, moving along our agenda, next we come to claims, and for claims, I'm going to turn it over to the Director of Administration, Ms. Vern White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 3A, GSD claims numbers 2,832 through 3,298 in the amount of $2,384,192.50. $948.60. Recommend approval and ratification of today's GSD claims.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 3A. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, the claims have been approved.
That completes today's GSD claims.
Moving along our agenda, next we come to information updates, and our first information update will be from our plant superintendent, Ms. Rhonda Anderson.
Good afternoon. The IWEA O&M Committee has had multiple meetings in preparation for the annual IWEA conference that's going to be held in Fort Wayne from August 21st through August 23rd. Our objective is to ensure that operators are provided with meaningful technical presentations and also earn CEUs in the process. On Wednesday at 8 o'clock, I'm going to be part of a panel discussion at the conference on the operations and maintenance of various activated sludge processes. We have conventional activated sludge here at GSD, and others on the panel are going to be talking about some other technologies such as trickling filters, oxidation ditches, sequencing, batch reactors, etc. And also, Dan's going to co-present on Thursday on the use of infiltration basins for sewer separation. So that takes place next week in Fort Wayne. The July Northwest Indiana Operators Association regular meeting was hosted by East Chicago Sanitary District at the East Chicago Marina, where there was a presentation on analyzers for wastewater treatment plant chemical feed control. The August meeting that's coming up in a couple of weeks will be hosted by Valparaiso. GSD staff met with 2 different vendors regarding volute screw presses, which is an alternative technology to dewater digested sludge. And these vendors are so confident in their products that they are offering us free plant trials. So we're going to have one in a couple of weeks with Pelton Environmental Products, and then a few weeks after that with Andridge, to evaluate whether either of their products will be beneficial to GSD. And best part of it is free. So we're excited to take place in this trial. The east, west, and north gravity tanks were cleaned. They're back in service. ABB conducted the annual calibration of our plant meters. Motor starter on the west grip pump was replaced. The south detritus tank rake was repaired, and it is back in service. We had a pretty big project that was just completed. It was triggered by the fact that we couldn't pump sludge out of primary tanks 1 and 2. When the tanks were drained to evaluate what was wrong and what needed to be done, they found a number of issues, and so they since the tanks were drained and they were out of service, the decision was made, we might as well take care of all these things right now. So in the process, they replaced all the inlet valves to primary tanks 1 through 4. 3 out of 4 of the valve gear adapters for the auto valves, the inlet and discharge valves for 2 sludge pumps. They replaced the east sludge pump. They replaced some piping and discharge lines, and also the scum system inlet piping. So Arctic, let me see, Action Automation did some of the work, as did Arctic Engineering, and our maintenance staff completed the rest of it, but it is now complete, and those tanks are back in service. So that's all I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for the plant superintendent? Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Next information update will come from Eric Tonk in reference to construction activities.
Good afternoon, Board. Here to do a quick presentation on current and past projects that were just completed. The first one is being the stormwater remediation for the flooding near 45th Avenue and Madison Street. That project actually has been completed. LGS did a quick job on that. I inspected it yesterday morning. I thought there was rain in the area. I heard there was not, though. It rained in Miller, but I guess not Glen Ryan. But there weren't any puddles when I inspected it, so that's a good start.
Saying you want it to rain?
Huh?
Saying you want it to rain?
I know, one of the very few times. Stripping of the paint in the filter building, the paint has been removed. They're still doing some patching work, and also some other minor repairs or coat painting some of the pipes that where the paint was stripped off on those areas. That project should be completed within 2 weeks. The 29th and Jerry Street stormwater project, there is a final walkthrough tomorrow. So hopefully the punch list items should be minor for that project, and that should be finally completed. Final completion should be set pretty soon. The Clark Road Improvements Project, I know one of the last few items was guardrails that need to get installed. I drove by there, and the guardrail has been installed. There is one small site restoration needs to be completed, but that can't be completed until NIPSCO lowers one of their valve boxes on the sidewalks. Ambridge Neighborhoods Sewer Project, all the lining has been complete. No, excuse me, all the sewer reconstructions has been completed. We're waiting for materials for the lining to be completed, and that should start sometime in September. The Lake Street Road Construction Project, most of phase 1 has been completed. Those are for the side streets. 7 light poles foundations have been poured, including the conduits, electrical conduits for that. So that project is moving along nicely. And the last project I have is the paving for here at the treatment plant. There were some small issues regarding subcontractors, but all that has been straightened out, and hopefully that project should be starting in the next week or so.
I'd like to add on one thing with the Lake Street project. I know we had several occasions publicly promised a parking lot where the former Mingling sat. Not just a long-term parking lot, but an interim one during construction. That's to minimize impacts to the loss of parking during construction. That is being completed today, the temporary parking lot, and will be available tonight for the general public to park at. And it's directly across from the Miller Bakery Cafe at the former Mingling restaurant site.
And for the sewer cave-ins, I do want to report on today's agenda, items 2I and 2H. The sewer construction portion of that project have been completed. They still need to do the site restoration and also the video inspection. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Tong? Thank you, Mr. Tong. Next on our agenda is discussion. That's discussion amongst the board. Is there any topic a board member wishes to discuss at this time? Hearing none, we'll move along to request to speak. Ms. Lee, are there any requests to speak?
No, sir.
All right, next on our agenda is adjournment. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We are adjourned. I call to order this meeting of the Gary Stormwater Management District, this regular meeting for the Board of Directors for Wednesday, August 14th, 2019. First on our agenda is roll call. Ms. Lee.
Director Tramel Rags.
Present.
Director Maurice Mabon.
Present.
Director Ola Morris.
Present.
Attorney Nick Snow.
Present.
Executive Director Daniel Vicari.
Present.
Director of Administration Vern White.
Present.
And we have Mayor Freeman Wilson.
Good afternoon.
And end of roll call.
With 3 directors, we do have a quorum to do business. Next on our agenda is certification. I, Trammell Rags, certify that prior to this meeting, there was an executive session held, and there was nothing that was discussed during that executive session except the items that were indicated on the executive session notice posted in compliance with Indiana Code 5-14-1.5. Also, there were no final decisions made during that executive session, also in compliance with that same law. If there is any director that dissents this certification, they may do so now. Hearing none, we will move along our agenda to the minutes. What is the pleasure of the board regarding the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the minutes of the executive session and regular meeting for July 15th, 2019.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybon,
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, the minutes have been approved. Moving along the agenda, next we come to new business, and for new business, I'll turn it over to the Executive Director, Daniel Vicari.
Thank you. I'd like to ask for item 2A and 2B to be provided by Vern White. Thank you.
Thank you. Director, item 2A, a motion to approve GSWMD's payroll earnings for the period ending June 24th, 2019 through July 7th, 2019 in the amount of $11,855.68. Recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2A. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybon.
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2A has been approved.
Item 2B, a motion to approve GSWMD's payroll earnings for period ending July 8th, 2019 through July 21st, 2019 in the amount of $20,987.21. Recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2B. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybon.
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2B has been approved.
Item 2C is a motion to approve an award of bid to Grimmer Construction Company, Inc. for stormwater drainage improvements at the vicinity of 2182 Pierce Street in a not-to-exceed amount of $41,356.00. This is an area near the former Delaney Public Housing Complex where ponding water in that area is causing a hazard for vehicles and pedestrians. We looked at really, it's a green approach, even though it doesn't look green. We're using corrugated pipe, but basically using a perf pipe system to manage that stormwater in that place so as not to send additional waters to our combined sewer system and tax it during wet weather. We've successfully completed these types of projects in several areas. I think Mr. Tonk mentioned 45th and Madison is a recent one where we've done this. Also 45th and Broadway, several areas in Miller, including Lake Street. They work very well on our sandy soils. So we solicited quotes from 12 contractors. We had 4 respond, with Grimmer Construction Company being the lowest responsive bidder. And I recommend approval of item 2C.
You heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2C. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybon.
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2C has been approved.
Item 2D is a motion to approve an agreement between the Gary Stormwater Management District and CSX Transportation, Inc. for preliminary engineering services relative to the roadway and drainage improvement project in the vicinity of the CSXT Bar Subdivision milepost BI 241.35. And this is basically where our Lake Street project crosses the CSX Railroad at roughly Miller Avenue. It is very typical, and actually it's more than typical, it's required. Anytime you're working with especially a Class 1 railroad like the CSX, and you're making improvements that could affect their right-of-way or are working in or near their right-of-way, they want to, at a minimum, review your plans. They might come back with comments, and they may even come back with additional engineering requirements with plans. What they do is they have what's called a force account, so they'll use their forces under this agreement to provide those services when you're working at or near their right-of-way. In this case, they were looking for this agreement to provide an upper limit not to exceed $38,125.00. Based on my experience in working with them and other Class 1s on other projects, this is typical and a fair price for what they require. So with this overview, I recommend approval of item 2D.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2D. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybon.
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2D has been approved.
Item 2E is a motion to approve change order number 2 to Reith Riley Construction Company, Inc. for the 4th Avenue and Bigger Street resurfacing and drainage improvements project, which is GSWMD project number SW18-02. The project, we are looking to get final quantities. John Tucker may be able to elaborate a bit more. John Tucker from American Structure Point, he was a field engineering services coordinator. Basically, as you tally up all of the actual quantities used on the project for things like asphalt, stone, slag, whatever the concrete, we ended up with an overall deduct. Some overruns, we call them on certain items, some underruns, when it all adds up to a $33,959.76 deduct on the project. We haven't conducted final walkthrough yet, I don't believe. Is that scheduled, John?
It will be. There's some additional traffic work.
We're working on some traffic loop improvements and things like that. So there's some punch list items to complete. Maybe at the next board meeting, we'll have the final completion recommendation to the board and release of retainage. But for now, we're just looking to at least administratively offer this deduct. I recommend approval.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2D. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybon,
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2D has been approved.
2E, I think that was. Chairman.
I'm sorry,
2E.
2E.
Item 2F is a motion to approve task order number 28 to the master services agreement between Gary Stormwater Management District and American Structure Point, Inc. for the engineering services for the Lake Street Improvement Project. To elaborate a bit further, this is Lake Street, what we're calling Phase 2. Phase 1, we're currently under construction. We have item 2D with the CSX that's related to Phase 1. As we move into Phase 2, we're working on starting to put together the engineering plans and contract documents for the phase that starts with 3rd Avenue at Lake Street and runs all the way up to 840 North Lake Street, which is where the former National Guard Armory facility is at near the Lake Street Beach. In order to continue our momentum, we want to have design plans in front of the board for review and approval and advertisement for bid so that by next year, construction season, we're ready to have a contractor in place to continue the next phase of Lake Street. So American Structure Point has put together this task order number 28 that includes all the services that would be needed in order to get from the initial basic concept plans we have about taking the improvements, namely sidewalk, pedestrian, and what we call pedway. So the protected bike lane that's included in Phase 1, we want to continue or have a continuum of that protected bike lane all the way to the lakefront, including a continuum of sidewalks. A lot of people may already know that the sidewalks are discontinuous. If you want to walk from that downtown Lake Street area to the beachfront, you're at some point are going to have to walk on the roadway. There's no continual sidewalk. So American Structure Point has put this together to get all the way through the procurement process of a contractor. So I recommend approval of item 2F.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2F. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybach,
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, 2F has been approved.
And that's all for new business today.
Moving along our agenda, next we have claims, and for claims, I'll turn it over to the Director of Administration, Ms. Vern White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 3A, GSWMD claims numbers 327 through 370 in the amount of $551,948.11. Recommend approval of today's stormwater claims as stated. And ratification.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 3A. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybach,
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes, 0 noes.
With 3 ayes and 0 noes, the claims have been approved
And ratified.
and ratified.
That completes the items for today's stormwater claims.
Thank you. Moving along our agenda, next we come to information updates, and our first information update will be from our MS4 coordinator, Ms. Brenda Scott Henry.
Good afternoon. We held our MS14 meeting on Monday, so please expect the report in your at the next board meeting. I wanted to say that we really appreciated the interns this summer. We had a great group of youth who participated in a series of learning activities as well as on-the-ground maintenance and installation of green infrastructure activities. And Tanya Cousin left, but we had one of the interns to put together their summer learning experience, and this will be one of the items that we include in the package for you to review. But it's a great document featuring all of the interns that we had employed at GSD and Stormwater this summer, and the activities that they did, they contributed to. That's really all that I have to share with you today. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to respond.
Any questions from the board?
Okay, thank you.
Our next information update will be from American Structure Point, and that will come from Chris Murphy.
Good afternoon, Directors. Chris Murphy with Structure Point. Apologize for running a few minutes late today. I had the meeting in my calendar starting at 3, so I was really close to being on time for that. Anyway, update today. Executive Director Vakari covered it pretty much with our task order number 28. We're going to be working full speed ahead on the engineering and development of construction drawings to complete the Lake Street project from the end of the current Lake Street project at around 3rd Avenue to Lake Street Beach. And that project would be scheduled then for construction next year as we prepare the bid documents this year for that work to move ahead. So that's going to keep our engineers continuing to work on Lake Street, and in the upcoming weeks and months to prepare for the bid documents. And I'll be updating you on that progress and that schedule of when we'll advertise and bid as we get there later this year, early next year. Any questions I can answer at this time for the directors?
Any questions from the board? Thank you.
I'd like to ask John Tucker to provide a construction update on the projects we're working on out in the field currently. Thank you.
Mr. Tucker.
Good afternoon, Board. A few updates. As Eric mentioned earlier, Jerry Street, we are complete with that. Final walkthrough tomorrow. I have done a preliminary walkthrough with the contractor, so hopefully if there is any items, it'll be minimal, but that work is complete. Fourth and bigger, the change order that you guys approved earlier, we had accounted for some undistributed items for not knowing how the payment was once we start removing it, so that was the bulk of the major savings that we had there. At the time of our initial closeout, the signal at Fourth and Bigger wasn't operational. It is now, so there's some traffic loops that we want to make sure are installed also to complete the project, as Director Vicari mentioned. So we'll get that completed and then close out and get that project wrapped up as well. Lake Street is ongoing, Phase 1, which is the alleyways and side streets. All the alleyways have been paved. Majority of the side streets are almost paved. Concrete work is complete. They are working on sidewalk and driveways. And then once they get the side streets and alleyways complete, that's when they'll transition to the main work and on Lake Street itself, which is right now we're almost on schedule. They're probably about a week back. We had to hit some delays with 3rd Street. We had a NIPSCO gas main that wasn't located properly, so NIPSCO has responded quickly as relocating. So, but we once we get in the major phase, we'll get back on schedule. Lighting work is also proceeding at this time. The last project we have is Ambridge neighborhood. The sewer repairs have been done. As mentioned earlier, Eric did. Sewer lining itself, materials have been ordered, and that anticipated start time will be in September. So if there's any questions, comments, or concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Any questions from the board?
Chairman, I'd like to tag on about NIPSCO. A lot of utilities would take a lot longer to have responded with that problem we had at 3rd Avenue. There was an entire 8-inch gas main that needed to get relocated, which typically has to go through engineering and probably
Correct.
get a budget put together and do that work. They were able to turn that around in about a week and a half. So I was really impressed with them doing that, which enabled us to continue working. I think they're wrapping it up today. I went out there and
Yeah, it's been relocated. Unfortunately, if they had another tapping crew, they only have one main tapping crew. They do statewide almost. So it is scheduled for the tap, so there's still a little bit delay, but all the relocation work has been completed. They just have to do the actual tie-over. So, but it was a good response by everyone involved. Even the contractor was very helpful to help identify the problem and assist in any ways. So that worked out. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next update will be from Robinson Engineering, and to present that, we have Mr. Dave Schilling.
Thank you, Director. We have 3 projects in the design phase that we are currently working on. The first one is the Warren Street Sewer Feasibility Study. All the elevations and everything have been designed pre-final. We do have a meeting with staff on August 28th to pick the final design options, and then we should be able to move on to the bidding phase. We have the Locust and Forest Stormwater Project that we've already reviewed the pre-final design with staff. We're making some final revisions, and we should be ready to advertise for bids the week of the 27th. And it's actually the same thing with the 20th place from Taft to Ellsworth Stormwater Project, same schedule, working on final revisions for bidding on the 27th. And that's all I have.
Any questions from the board, Mr. Schilling?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is discussion. That's discussion amongst members of the board. Is there any topic a board member wishes to discuss at this time?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move along to request to speak. Ms. Lee, are there any requests to speak?
No, sir.
So with no request to speak, next on our agenda is adjournment. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second?
We are adjourned.